How have you been? My name is Tae Gon Park in Korea. Nice to meet you. I am recording my saying through a woman's voice. First, let me talk about Frankel and logotherapy. Imagine it. If you have to fill a hungry stomach with a piece of bread, if you have to wash, brush and bathe with a cup of water, stay in a place without a toilet, if you cannot meet with your loved family, if you shave with a piece of glass, will you be able to live if you have to work with the beast in bad surroundings? However, there was a man who survived such a terrible surroundings. He is Viktor E. Frankl. Frankl was born on March 26, 1905, in Vienna, Austria. After studying Freud's psychoanalysis and Adler's personal psychology, he served as a psychiatrist and physician at Rothschild Hospital in Vienna. In the meantime, Hitler's Jewish massacre policy had to be dragged into Auschwitz camps, which were called death camps in 1942, and had to spend years as animals. After finishing several camps for 3 years and arriving at liberty, he wrote and lectured while serving as head of the psychiatric nurse at the Polyclinic Hospital in Vienna. He was a visiting professor at Harvard University in the United States. His classroom was always full of students. His 32 books have been translated and published in 27 languages worldwide. In particular, the book Man's Search for Meaning has become the best-selling book in the USA with more than 5 million copies sold. On November 20, 1991, The New York Times said, "This book is one of the 10 books that has had the greatest impact on America so far." Los Angeles Times said, "If you read only one book this year, you'll have to read Dr. Frankel's book." Many people are wandering in the depths of suffering these days. They are screaming in the cry of silence. They are dying silently in an invisible place. This is our reality. It is the real economy. It is pain that touches the skin. It is in this period of suffering that we find the need for meaningful therapy too. But there are many ways to overcome this reality. One of those methods is logotherapy. When we discover its meaning and value in various sufferings, the power to overcome suffering emerges in our minds. This is the effect and the treatment of logotherapy. Second, let's think about the meaning of life. Man is a rational being. It is reasonable to say that thinking leads to behavior. Behavior creates a habit, and habits lead to destiny. Of course, it is true that the invisible hand of God is moving. By the way, the problem is what to think. This forms his values, views of life, and worldview. Everything comes out of this idea. When we live our whole life, we lose and get it. By the way, most people tend to think more about what they have lost than they have gained. So there are many cases of selling the grave of misfortune. We think that we lost it. It breaks out. We regret it. So, there are many cases of choosing unhappiness and ending life with unhappy life. But the fact is that there is more to gain than to lose. There are many cases of things that we think we have lost rather than something we have lost. Material is lost, but truth is gained. We lost my health, but we realize the importance of health. All physical things are lost, but spiritual things are gained. When Frankl entered the Auschwitz concentration camp in 1942, he thought he had lost everything. Actually, from the outside, he lost everything he had. Personal belongings, of course, up to one coat. At that time, he thought that everything was over. The colleagues around me had almost the same thoughts. The colleagues around him were struggling with an endless nostalgia for home and family. Even the life and death of loved ones could not be known. They could not keep a family photograph. They was frustrated by the disgust with the ugly environment that was so different from the previous environment. There was no room for rest. There was no warm clothes. It was an environment where the smell of garbage stuck their nose in the same place as the beast. In particular, the inhuman treatment of German soldiers made humiliation trembling. They had a severe beating with leather straps. They swore they could not put it in their mouth. Everything went through the prison number, not their name. Starting with cleaning the toilets and clearing the sewers, they were able to make a highway that they could not imagine before. In this environment, colleagues around him began to change. At first, they sometimes resisted, but the more they resisted, the stronger punishment came. Since then, they have started to show a cold reaction. Emotions and feelings slowed down. It became numb and indifferent. Even his colleagues groaned in severe illness and were not interested in dying in pain. While his colleague's body was dying and smelling rotten, they struggled to drink the juice that was not much left, and some colleagues regressed. They were obsessed with primordial desire. All day, they imagined only bread, sweets, tobacco, and a warm bath. And when they slept, they dreamed like this, drooling and shouting for bread. After this process, most of them thought about suicide. In fact, there were many cases where a person was killed by an electrical shock when they were struck by an electric wire surrounding the camp. When Frankl first entered the camp, he looked around at his colleagues. There were a lot of people with a strong body, a big tall, a strong eye and a strong weather. On the other hand, there were people with poor eyesight, small eyes and blurred eyes. He thought that the people of the former would survive for a long time and that the latter would soon die. However, a strange phenomenon occurred. Not necessarily. When he looked closely at the psychiatrist's eyes, most of those who thought that there was a reason to survive, beyond any external environment or health condition, survived. Almost everyone who thinks that everything is over now is dead. Here he gained deep enlightenment. It means that the meaning of life is the driving force of life. We all have reasons to live. As in the first sentence of the Big and Small Catechism, we have the duty and privilege to glorify God and rejoice forever. And there is a reason to preach the gospel. Live the life of Jesus' witnesses, and live with loved ones. There are other specific reasons. When we hold on to the meaning of this life, God will hold his life and be glorified through him. Third, let us consider the true meaning of life. Kierkegaard considered humans as individuals before God, of course, in modern society. Individualism appears to be a negative phenomenon and it becomes selfishness. When this is grouped, it becomes collective egoism and creates many social problems. Today, we are one of the social ills suffering from Korean society. This creates conflicts and breaks unity. It makes the atmosphere of society cluttered. The hidden philosophical foundation of America is relativism. The difference between you and me is not wrong, but just different. This ignores the absoluteness of truth and ethics, and breaks down absolute truth and ethics by being expressed differently according to each person's ideas and opinions. It is an idea to watch out for. However, the concept of personality is not only negative. The uniqueness of an individual speaking in pedagogy is very good. It exerts its unique potential that only the individual has, and it makes it possible to fulfill the mission which widely benefits people. We will go one step further to glorify God. This can be the meaning of our own unique life. In particular, Frankl emphasizes this. According to him, the meaning of life must be explored in himself. The Creator has hidden the meaning of each individual's life in the individual. It is only when we find this that we can realize our own humanness. We can fulfill our basic responsibilities as a human being. This is the person's mission and call. This comes to the solid of life. Frankl discovered this in his own way. He had to survive from the death camp to the end. He had to meet with his loved ones. Above all, it was necessary to publicize the disastrous life in the camps and the ruthless actions of the German forces throughout the world. So, he bit his teeth and endured. This has become a driving force for overcoming the difficulties of death. There are many ways to pursue human happiness. First, Freud's method. He refers to will to pleasure in psychoanalysis. According to him, there is libido, the place of sexual pleasure in human instinct. We cannot be happy if we do not satisfy this. This claim led to today's hedonism and entertainment industry. This covers the whole world today. Next is Adler's method. He argues for will to power in personal psychology. According to him, we cannot be happy unless we satisfy this in ourself. This appears to be power to dominate others, to show off superiority to others. This too is taking control of the world today. Then Frankel's method. He claims will to meaning in logotherapy. According to him, we have a willingness to make human beings human and to explore the meaning of life. We cannot be happy without possessing anything without it. Human pleasure or power is like fruit. When we discover the true meaning of life, the fruits of pleasure and power are automatically opened. However, true happiness can be found in the dimension of blessing. Of course, most of them use happiness and blessing as a similar concept. The word happiness came from the word happen to, whereas blessing from blessing came from the word bleed people. However, true happiness comes when we live a meaningful life, sacrificing self, giving out self, just as blood is shed rather. So I am not accidentally thrown out. It is not useless. It is the existence sent to the world. It is a meaningful, worthy being. I have something to do on this land. There is something I can and should do. That is the mission. It is calling. There are no trash cans in heaven. It is true. Each person is a precious being. When I find out what I have to do and can do, I will feel satisfied and happy.